Hello again, everybody. It's Harry Boxer, the technical trader. TechTrader.com. It's Thursday night, July the 6th. And these are the charts of the day. Well, a nasty day on Wall Street with a big dip in the morning. A midday rally back to resistance and near the gap. You notice the S&P got right up to 24.24, just underneath it in this kind of a bear flag type consolidation. And then the rollover, and a deep one, from 24.23.5 to 24.08. And then a little bit of a bounce into the close. The NASDAQ 100 was also in a steady sell-off. You can see the consolidation or the pullback was rather steady and not of any great urgency. But at the same time, support was taken out on the S&P, initial support. Not so on the NDX. That's maybe a positive. We'll see. And McClellan outside closed minus 72. Getting oversold, one of the biggest readings in the last 2 months. And so we're getting there. And we did have a negative tick of about 1,078, but not quite enough for me to say that's a climax low, that's for sure. I'm looking at the hourly charts. NASDAQ 100 looks like this. You can see that a big run up. We can't see the part of it here that shows where it's run up from, but from 53.50 to nearly 900, 550 points, more than 10%. And so we're getting a pullback now. NASDAQ 100 is pulled back from near 5,900 to as low as 5,580. That's 220 points. So we're down about a 2/3 Fibonacci retracement of the entire move up. And we're near the pullback low from mid-May here at about 56.65. We're also in a falling wedge of sorts. We're also at 1, 2, 3, wave 3. It looks like towards the bottom of the channel, but we could spill over tomorrow morning and get as low as 55.20 zone before we finish this. At least that's what it looks like. At least before we get a big rally. You never know, though. What I do want to point out is the S&P, which has not made a lower low, but in looking at the overall structure, we had a big rally, multiple waves up. This looks like a rounding top to me. This trend line here was taken out decisively, snapped back through, unable to get through resistance, and then imploded and got down to 24.045 range. There's multiple tops in here. It bounced off of very sharply, much more than I expected. But then roll over Beethoven. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 waves down near support. Now, if this does not hold 24.05, expect to see 23.92.95. But at that point, I would expect to see a better rally back anyway. Perhaps, just perhaps, we have something like this developing, and we'll just have to see what it turns out to be. But if we get down in that zone, we may rally back up there. Either way, it's all conjecture. For now, though, let's go to the individual charts, both long and short. I'm going to show you some shorts today as well. If you take a look at a BAO on the long side, we pointed this out a few days ago. The stock has had a really nice consolidation for several months, and now it's been up 13 out of 14 or 12 out of 13 days. Only one little consolidation day there. Today, it traded almost 1 million shares and was up another 8.2% in a lousy market. There's 19 days to cover of short. So this is a stock that could get squeezed even higher, good or bad market. For now, my target's around 9 and then 11. CALA Therapeutics really looking good in here. Now, obviously, the biotechs had a tough day, but when you see that kind of action on a lousy day in the market, particularly in biotech, you got to look twice. It got as high as 1870, backed off about 80 cents, but was still up on a session. Good volume. For me, I want to see if this thing follows through, and if it does, 21 and 24 targets. But unfortunately, you may get a pullback. If you do, watch support at around a 16 range. That's going to be key. And then looking at 14 and a half. There's about 1.9 days to cover. Now, fold, the swing trade's acting very well in here, and you can see that over the last several couple weeks here, the stock has consolidated. It's run up now for about 6 days in a row, and it made a new high today. It's the highest level in a long time for fold. And if you look at the overall structure, you'll see that the November 2015 highs might get tested in this zone up around 11 3/4, 12 zone. That's my next target. Up next is Hudson, which had a great day today as well. And if you take a look at the structure, it made a nominal new high at 919. Now, I told you that the 895.9 zone was resistance. We punched through it with a good volume, but backed off with a lousy market. I still think if and when we get any kind of rally phase, this stock could very well be 11, 12, 13, and even as high as 15 with 7.3 days to cover. Now, Immunogen did very well today to make it up near the top of the channel. Unfortunately, with big volume and then reversed to close barely up on a session. I do think the stock is extended and has multiple waves up, and it's filled the gap. So there may be a pullback consolidation in here, but I think long term the stock has a good shot at going higher. PIRS extending, another move up to 584 today, has taken this from about 4 to almost 6 just in the last 2 weeks. But it's now a stock that's gone from literally $1.30 to 584 in the last 6 months, so it may need to rest or consolidate. But momentum could take this to 6.5 or even 8 before it's done. VSTM with a big pop today. 11.9 million shares. Stock was up 42% on a lousy day. Now, it did get up near resistance up here, near the 394 zone. They got up to 384, 385, I believe, and then pull back. Nevertheless, with this kind of breakout of a big base pattern on that kind of volume, it may very well see some more upside, depending on the market, of course. This may see 5.5 or 6 down the road. ZN had another big day and broke out above the double top and extended by 2.5 million, another 9.3%. This looks like a stock that wants to go up to 5.5, 6, but we'll just have to see if it gives you a pullback retest. Now look at some of the boxer shorts, and there's quite a few to look at. Starting with Akamai, on a long-term basis or intermediate basis, you can see that this stock broke support after coming down and forming a bear coil. It then came down and formed the bear flag, and then dropped in a fifth wave and formed another bear flag. Now, fifth wave consolidations are always less reliable, but I got a feeling this is going to see 44 and 40 before not too long. At least that's the way it looks to me. AutoZone had a downside follow-through of another 935 or a couple percent. You can see that this has now fallen dramatically from the December highs up in the 815 range all the way down to near 500, losing more than 300 points in the last several months. At this point, it's a little bit too far, too fast, oversold. I wouldn't be aggressively shorting it, but if you're long, play this with trailing stops. The long-term chart shows that this is a key support level down here at about 492 to 500 zone. So if we follow through it in the next day or two a little bit further, we may be in an area where you want to think about covering it. Aspen, well, after cracking the double top neckline here and forming a bear wedge, it looks like it wants to roll over. My targets are 52, 48, and 45. Going forward, keep a lookout on this one. Central Garden and Pet, after breaking down and forming a bear wedge, looks to me like it wants to roll over. It dropped a bit today, but it looks like if it takes out 29, this could be down in the 23.4 zone. Criteo had formed a rising wedge after falling down hard on big volume. It ran up to resistance and the trend line. This is the kiss back, and it looks like it might be rolling over. It's down $1.03 today, but if it falls further, targets are 43 and 38. Cyber Optics been on my short list since March when it was forming a bear flag following the breakdown. It went lower and then bounced, formed the wedge. What you want to watch on this one is can it take out 19 3/4. If it does that, look out 16 and then 13.5 as targets. Fang broke a top pattern, came down hard from the rising wedge, and today cracked for 253 and looks like it may be headed lower. My targets are 82 and 73. FPRX has been on my list since January when it broke the trend line and formed a rising bear wedge. After rolling over and forming a bear flag, it's come down even further, and at some point here, forming a double bottom near 26. However, since then it's formed a wedge, and today may have broken that wedge. I don't think momentum is done on the downside yet, and I'm looking for something in the 22.3 range going forward. Swing trade IPHI broke the rising wedge, came down and bounced, formed another little mini wedge in there, and broke down again and bounced. But if we crack that zone, and it looks like it's forming a bear flag, 30 and 27 are my targets on this one. MYRG with a large bear flag after a big hit, coming down from 43.5 to 27.5, 16-point drop. It could barely bounce more than a couple points. I think this comes down to retest 27 and may even get down to 23. That's my targets going forward. O'Reilly, along with AAP and AZO, of course, still getting hammered. No rally today, down another 224. Looking at the weekly chart, you'll see the big break and key support down about 158. That's my next target. If it does extend further, it could get ugly, and I mean quick. PC Mall formed a bear flag over the last couple of weeks. It looks like it could break down from here, and if it does, 14 and 12 are targets. Parsley Energy, still the oil stocks and a lot of the larger ones that had the big run up last year are coming down. And after breaking that consolidation zone, it rolled over and rallied back to resistance, forming a bear flag, and today dropped nearly 3%, but it might have broken that flag. So I think we're headed for 24, 21, and 19 going forward. Ralph Lauren broke that flag today, and I believe may be headed for a date with 58 and 54 going forward. It's 70 right now. Well, Shopify, it backed off today, and it's in a wedge, or is it a head and shoulder top? We don't know yet, but I can tell you that my belief short is the way to be. And we'll get confirmation under 81.5, and watching it drop to 70 and 63 would be a possibility. We don't want to be long if it gets over the, say, 92.3 zone. Simon Property Group, in a very weak real estate, particularly retail real estate group, fell out of the falling wedge yesterday and followed through to the downside. I think this one could be headed lower, and you can see where the object would be around 135, 20 points from here. Seagate looks like that rolled over too, and cracking last week, and today forming after a 3-day wedge, forming more downside action with down $1.73. The targets are about 35 and then 32, but this one could get much worse than that. Taubman Centers, another retail operation with a declining channel, was rolling over here and looks to be headed lower. My targets on this one have to be in about the 53 and then 47 zones. Target Corp, retailer, getting smacked back after the hard hit on volume, rising wedge. It's coming down again. My target is 45. Urban Outfitters, that's a bear flag. It came off resistance today, dropping $1.14 or 6%. Doesn't feel done yet either. Taking a look at this, my target's 14.5. Veritiv, well, I'm not sure when it's going to crack, but it's certainly pulled back $1.55 or 3.5% today. It looks like it's about to. Targeting 39 and 34. Wave Life Sciences, WVE, ever since that bear flag had it on our short list. It broke the trend line, came down bear flagged, popped to the trend line, and then came down hard before bouncing again. But it looks very weak. It's been down for 5 days in a row, and it could very well hit the 14 and 12 zone down in there. Yelp is my final stock for today. Looks like a top to me. It broke down there. It's formed the rising bear flag, and it looks like it dropped today underneath that or out of that flag pattern. If it is followed through the downside, 26.5, 23, and even 19 are all possibilities on that if the company doesn't get taken out. And this is HB saying good night, everybody, and let's make some money tomorrow. Good night.